Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about compliance in pharma and biotech. Compliance is a cornerstone of our industry, and we ensure that companies are adhering to a complex web of regulation, standards, and ethical guidelines. Non-compliance, as we know, can lead to consequences including fines, product recalls, and damages to a company's reputation. We have key regulatory standards that we follow, including International Council for Harmonization, ICH, which is the driving force. We have different guidelines for each piece of GXP, which is the overarching regulations and all-inclusive. So we have GMP, which is good manufacturing. We have GLP, which is good laboratory. GCP, which is good clinical. GVP, which is good pharmacovigilance. All of this feeds into our complex regulatory landscape, which make compliance challenging because different areas have different pieces. The changes are very rapid. We have global organizations and global regulations to follow. And the overarching piece remains to ensure accuracy, completeness, and security of data, which is critical for compliance, no matter which way we're going, no matter where in the world. We also work with supply chain management, and managing that complex supply chain can also be challenging, especially when dealing with suppliers in different regions. We have strategies for effective compliance that include regulatory mapping, compliance management systems, risk assessments, training and education, and audits and inspections. The piece that I really want to emphasize is the technology solutions, because there we're leveraging the options that are out there to maximize the utilization of available compliance processes to improve efficiencies. And all of this is leading to compliance by design, which is a proactive approach to regulatory compliance, aiming to embed compliance into the core processes and culture of the organization from the outset. So we have some key principles for compliance by design that we're going to go into a little bit further. Risk assessment is where we're identifying what the potential compliant risks are and assessing their likelihood of impact and developing strategies to mitigate and eliminate these risks. I know that we've heard all the buzzwords around risk assessment and risk mitigation and elimination of the risks. One of my favorite pieces around that is that continually having to put out the fires is not mitigating the risks. So if we're repeating the same errors over and over again, we're not doing it right. We need to look at what it takes for us to prevent the fires from happening, not keep putting them out. And how can we integrate these processes? So on the process integration side, how do we integrate compliance requirements into our existing processes and workflows? And how do we ensure that compliance is considered at every stage of product development, manufacturing, and distribution? For that, I really feel that we need to begin with the end in mind and recognize, and this is a piece that will be repeated throughout our little talk here today, compliance is the bottom rung of the ladder. Compliance is the bare minimum that we're looking for in setting up these systems, in our quality piece, in our development of any of the processes. That is the bare minimum expectation of the agencies, any agency worldwide. The bare minimum expectation is compliance. Anything anything below that is actionable, and we don't want actionable pieces for our companies to be exposed to. So we want data integrity from the word go. We want to ensure that we have provided training and education for all of the impacted groups and people. We want to ensure that we are continuously working to improve our systems and addressing the compliance gap, and that we are continuing to encourage a culture of learning and adaptation. We want to ensure that we are continuously monitoring and auditing and using the technology solutions. We can't say that we're 100% sure of our compliance within an area if we are still using paper. If we have a paper system that is being transcribed into a electronic system that is automatically built in for error, because transcription errors happen. How is that source verified if we don't have if we can't actually trace it to the beginning? It's 2024. It's time to use the electronic systems where we can have electronic data trail, electronic audit trails, and we can show who has touched each piece along the way. We can improve our efficiencies, and proactive compliance also helps to avoid the costly penalties and remediation. We can't inspect in or audit in efficiency and compliance. We need to build it into the system from a holistic standpoint. So some examples of compliance by design, again, these are all pieces that we should recognize, include a quality management system. So we have compliance by design and quality by design. So implementation of a robust QMS, incorporating all of the compliance requirements and all aspects of product development, along with the electronic data capture to ensure data integrity and traceability, utilizing risk-based monitoring and using data analytics to identify potential compliance risks and to monitor their performance. So by adopting a by design approach, we can create the foundations for compliance, reducing risks, and improvement of the overall performances of our systems. As far as technology solutions, we have compliant management softwares, electronic document management systems, quality management systems, electronic data capture, all of the tools that have been developed that we can and should be utilizing as is fit for each organization. Because as we've discussed before, there is no one size fits all for our organizations. Each organization has specific needs and specific requirements for what their system needs and what their endpoints and end goals are. A story that I've told multiple times is I was working at an organization that was very excited to, and this was a long time ago, they were very excited to be getting the rolling racks from a Pfizer site when Pfizer was going paperless. And this was a small organization that could have taken that opportunity to go paperless themselves much easier than Pfizer, because Pfizer was such a large organization and this was a very small organization. But instead, they went ahead and bought the rolling racks so that they could have the former Pfizer rolling racks because they got them at a bargain. It's not always a bargain when you can take the opportunity to move forward before you get that big. So it's important to look at what it is that your organization needs and what steps your organization can take from a compliance standpoint. So what is fit for purpose for your organization? Where can you be with these pieces? And how do you plan what you need to do to get the information in the way that is effective for your company? How do you build quality into your system? How do you ensure that you have the reliable and accurate data? And again, voluntary compliance with regulations is the bottom rung of the ladder. The data must be maintained, accurate, and reliable throughout its entire lifespan. And creating a system designed to support quality research and creating a system that increases visibility of errors is what our end goal is. Anyone have any questions?
Are QMS systems a requirement?
It depends. At what level?
We're working with a client right now who is standing up a data management department, and we're working with them on writing their SOPs and developing their templates and forms and basically all their controlled documents. But they do not have a formal electronic QMS system to manage it. They're wanting to do it like in SharePoint.
Okay, an electronic QMS system is not mandatory.
Okay.
Some sort of a system that they are able to track and follow. If they're using SharePoint, SharePoint is absolutely a viable alternative. And is it a 21 CFR Part 11 compliant instance of SharePoint? Okay, so then how are they
Actually, I don't know that. That's interesting. I didn't know there was such thing as 21 CFR compliant.
Well,
instance.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that instance being 21 CFR compliant, but if they're going to be utilizing electronic signature, then whatever platform it is that they're using for 21 CFR, or whatever platform it is that they're using for their data, for their signatures, must be 21 CFR compliant.
Okay. Yep. That I remember. Okay. You said compliance is the lowest rung of like the expectation, like being compliant is basically, the lowest acceptable state. What would be like rung 2 or rung 3?
So continuous improvement would show where, additional pieces can be, like in addition to having all of your data secure and your supply chain traceable and your suppliers qualified, what are the additional pieces that you can do to ensure that? So I know, for example, that you work in clinical data management. And so one of the pieces beyond compliance would be how are the auto queries going.
Mm.
So I
Mhm.
would say that that would be an area, and that's just because I know that area of the business, right? So your data is compliant, your system has been validated, and you're still getting 2,600 auto queries a week.
Mhm.
Then that seems like there is an issue within the system that needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
So I would say that that's the next rung.
Okay. Thank you.
And, so pick the low hanging fruit of where the issues are.
Mhm.
And for each system and each organization, it's going to be different. And like I said, I just picked that one because I know that one. And how is your data transferred? Because again, I know clinical data management also is often integrated with pharmacovigilance, and the pharmacovigilance system and the clinical database interact. So how is the interaction between those two?
Hmm. Mhm.
What is the relationship between the two groups? How are they working together? Are they working together? Is there is it siloed communication between CDM and PV?
Okay.
What do the reconciliations look like between those two groups? So you see where things start
Mhm.
to move?
Mhm. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?